is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Gaelic Gridiron podcast. We have a fantastic episode in store for you today. I am delighted to be joined by former Connacht rugby player and current kicker punter for the Tirol Raiders of the European League of Football, Mr. Darragh Leader. Darragh, how's things? How are you?
Thanks. How's it going, Jimmy? Thanks for having me on. Things are going very well. I'm enjoying a day off here in Austria in the sunshine, so things are very nice at the moment, and I'm enjoying life over here in Innsbruck at the moment. So yeah, all is very well.
It certainly looks like a beautiful day there. Very scenic surroundings in Austria. Darragh, let's talk first about your, I suppose, your current tenure with the Raiders of the ELF. How have you settled in so far, and how is your debut season going?
Yeah, I suppose at the start it kind of came about coming over here. It kind of happened very quickly, so I didn't have too much time to think about it. I just kind of they were like, this team wants you to come to Austria and play in the ELF, and then within like 4 days of that becoming or they mentioned they may want me, I was over in Innsbruck, and then I was playing my first game that weekend. So it happened very quickly, but so far, yeah, it's been great. It's been a great opportunity to play football. I've been able to do obviously punting, kickoffs, and field goals and kicking, so that's been like great. Obviously in the IPP, I was just doing punting, um, and yeah, I've just been learning lots. It's the fact I'm doing all those three things. I'm getting so many reps every game, and I've been, especially my field goals from the first few weeks doing it, I wasn't as good as I could have been, but for the last few weeks, I've gotten much better, and I'm up in the 80s and 90 percentiles now on my kicks. So that's been great to have that kind of improvement. Yeah, but yeah, overall, it's been a great start. It's been a great place to learn to play the game. I have great coaches here in Innsbruck. Few of our coaches have Super Bowl rings and things like that. So it's yeah, just learned a lot so far, and it's been a great experience.
How did you manage the quick turnaround, Darragh, from literally getting the call to a few days later playing your first game? It must have been
Yeah.
quite the I suppose the adaptation to make it short notice.
No, it was. Yeah, I was actually over in the States training with John Carney at the time because there was options of maybe going to the CFL, and then things, but just due to the way their contracts work, it didn't make sense for me to go there. So then I just said I'll go over train with John Carney because he's one of the kicking coaches in America that's kind of like a gatekeeper. If you impress him, that goes a long way into helping you to try and make the NFL. So I went over and did that, and then while I was over there, Tig was like, "Oh, this European football team, League of Football team wants you," and then I flew back on the Sunday, and then I flew straight to Innsbruck on the Tuesday, and we had our first game against Milan on the Saturday. So yeah, it was I think actually it was a good thing that I went from just straight into a game week, and just straight away the coaches don't have to perform, and I've never really had, because I got injured in the IPP, I never really had a live snap hold
Mm.
kick and or live snap punt until I got here. And literally my very first session, the very first session is how we always do punting right away. So very first session I was straight in, and the coach was like, "Yeah, punt the ball down the field," and so I didn't have any time to think about it, which I think was a good thing, that I just
Yeah.
got straight in and like trial by fire type thing. And I felt like it's helped me learn lots, like learn faster as well. The fact I'm just in game straight away. Like my very first game, I think I was on the field for a kicker punter. You're not involved, or if you either or, you mightn't be involved that much. But I think I had like 6 or 7 reps in the first half of the first game that weekend. So yeah, it's been great. And as I said, yeah, just it was very fast getting over here, but as I said, I think that was a good thing, and just straight in and yeah, learn lots right away.
It's definitely great that they're giving you more opportunities than just punter or just kicker. You're their utility guy for special teams in terms of everything that's related to kicking the ball. So that
Yeah,
must be great for yourself, for your own professional development, but also your own development as a specialist, as a kicking specialist.
yeah, definitely. As I said, like I get to do everything. So like the learnings I've made have been massive. Like the first few weeks, let's say, this if I got a not a perfect snap, the first few weeks I was immediately just going to what I know, which is a rugby. So I just grab it and kick, and I kind of turn sideways and down the field. But if you play against better teams, if you turn sideways and run a step to your right, you're going outside the pocket, and then you're more likely to get blocked down. So things like that if I wasn't in this type of environment, I wouldn't have known that's what I do if I get a bad snap. But now I'm like, let's say from week 3, 4, and 5, I've learned that if I get a bad snap, I still need to try and get the ball back across over my foot and walk down the line straight down the middle. So your chance of getting blocked down are much less. And again, same thing on kickoffs. I learned that I don't need to try and smash the ball on every kickoff. We kick off from the 30, not the 35, so it's a little bit further. But if you want touchbacks, um, I do my normal run up, but I've learned if I want to just place it, let's say, even if I'm only hitting it 5 yards shorter, I don't need to do my 9-yard run up. I can do a 5-yard run up. So just little things like that I've learned. And then same thing on field goals, because luckily the first couple of games we were scoring a lot of touchdowns and I got a lot of reps. And because I was new to it, I wasn't striking them as I should have or should be and capable of. But because I was getting so many reps, I learned that there's these little tweaks I need to make. And then since then I've been much, much better. So yeah, just because I'm getting all the reps and everything, yeah, my learning curve has been massive and it's been very steep. So it's definitely been a plus for me. And even just during the week in training, I get on each session, we do 2 main sessions during the week. I get maybe 10 punts both days and then 5 or 6 field goals. So all of a sudden I've kicked hundreds of live reps now all of a sudden the last couple of weeks. So
Yeah.
it's been great doing all 3 things.
Let's take a step back for a minute and talk about how you got here. You were part of the historical inaugural kicking class of the NFL's International Player Pathway Program. How did you get recruited to that? How did that whole thing come about?
Yeah, well, that kind of came about from, obviously Tyke's the coach there, and Tyke was telling me that he was coaching for this and looking for guys to be kickers and punters. But at the time, I was just over in the States, so I didn't really know too much what was going on. I was over in Kansas coaching rugby. And then one day, Tyke said he had a few different camps, and obviously some of the guys were good, but some of the standard wasn't that great. He didn't think, or he could find better. And then he was just like, wait a minute, the target market for him is former professional athletes or kind of guys, professional athletes or former professional athletes that are still young and basically boot the ball a long way. And he's just like, your whole career was based off you kicking the rugby ball a long way. So it made sense he just rang me one Thursday and was like, hey, all this has been finalized in a few days, but if you can go to a football field and get me footage doing punts, doing kicks, doing kickoffs, I'll put it in front of James Cook, and so I'll put it in front of him and see if he thinks you're good enough, and you're good enough, you can be in. So it kind of just happened organically like that. Later stage, like Mark and Rory and Charlie, they were kind of pegged from way on out, but I only kind of got into it literally 2 or 3 days before it's all been finalized and decided on. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up in that.
And the fact that he's your brother, I mean, you definitely had a bit of an in there through Tyke and the inside track,
Yeah,
which never hurts really, does it?
no, definitely not. And I will say some people may think it's like he just put me in for the sake of it, but I was definitely there on merit as well. I wasn't just
Yeah.
that, like, I was known as I've one of the longest kicks in rugby history. I think I've the 6th or 7th, according to one website, longest kick in rugby history. So from 69 yards or 63 meters. So, yeah, it wasn't that good that it took us so long to figure out that I'd be a good candidate for it. So that's probably on
And
us.
I don't think anyone thinks that you were just there by nepotism, Darragh. I think we all know that you earned your spot, and like you can see the fruits of your labor now with your new career in the ELF. But like when you were in Florida training with the IPP, based down there in South Florida and ahead of the combine, what were your expectations personally about getting noticed by an NFL team and potentially getting signed?
Yeah. I suppose at the start it kind of seems a bit surreal. You're in that environment and don't know where it's all going to lead. But then the more we started doing it and the more we started seeing other people kick and other coaches came and visited us that first week we were there and they were like, geez, you guys are good. And the more we started talking to people, the more we realized like we are actually of the standard. And I think that was a big thing that Ty pushed across when we were kicking these kicks. We like, yeah, it's like you don't know how good or bad you are, but he was telling us we're very good. But Joe, you kind of just don't believe it. You're coming straight in. You're able to hit these 50, 60 yard field goals, and you just think that everyone can do it. But what you're going to realize is not everyone can do that. Even college football guys, some of them can't hit 50, 60 yarders. So yeah, that was basically how I was kind of pushing that into us and letting us know, Joe, hey, we are like special. We are good enough to be here. And then, unfortunately for me, I got injured at the end of that first week when the John Harbaugh from the Ravens came in to watch us for a session with their kicking coach, who's coaches Justin Tucker, obviously one of the best kickers ever. He came in to watch us, and I was just a punter, but that day I was just doing some field goals for them, and then on my sixth field goal, I popped. I had an injury, and I felt a little pop in my hip flexor, so that put an end to my whole combine and stuff, or at least kicking at the combine and stuff at the time. But even up to that point, up until the kicker got injured, I was kicking very well, and they were impressed. And it's cool to hear, like, so one of the longest serving NFL head coaches be like,
Yeah.
saying well done, and geez, you look good. And then Justin Tucker's kicking coach, same thing, saying that to us. So, that was very cool. And then obviously because I got injured I wasn't able to kick at the combine, but I was still able to hold, which is a very important part for a punter.
Yeah.
If you're a punter, you can be the best punter in the world, but if you can't hold, you probably won't get signed by a team, because that's a very integral part to it's a very integral role to being a punter. So I got a hold of the combine, and even just holding it, there's still a lot of pressure. It's not an easy task. I was only doing it for 2 or 3 weeks at that stage, and next thing I'm in the NFL combine holding with like all the NFL special teams, head coaches and coordinators watching me do it. So as I said, even though I wasn't kicking, my heart rate, I wear a whoop, and my heart rate still got to 160, 170, even though I was just kneeling on the ground. It still went way up there. But thankfully, as I said, I was able to do my job, and I was able to do it very well to let Charlie and Rory hit all their kicks that they could. So yeah, that was very cool. And obviously, I'm chatting with all the NFL teams that day in the meetings you do beforehand. So a lot of them did express interest, and because especially for me being like a bigger guy and a rugby player, and
Yeah.
a lot of them did like that. So there was a bit of interest from different teams during those meetings, and yeah, it's just unfortunate I wasn't able to kick, but it is what it is. You have to move on and do the best you can.
This is it. And you talked there about your rugby experience. How, as a former professional athlete with Connacht Rugby, how is that experience or that expertise, I suppose, translated into the newfound scrutiny you might face as a professional American football player? Has it helped, do you think?
Yeah, well, outside of just the skill of kicking a ball, um, just being around a professional environment. Obviously, I was retired for a couple of years at this stage, but like the second I went back into even this team of Tirol Raiders, I just felt right at home into the full-time kind of setup. And yeah, being around guys like Pat Lam and coaches like Joe Smith, it's just you remember little things that they said. Maybe in my rugby career, maybe I wasn't as diligent in certain areas, or there's little areas I could have done better. But at the time when you're young, you kind of don't see these things. But now that the fact I've come back and I'm like, oh yeah, those things that you said to me there make sense now, and I'm changing that and doing those things a little bit more diligently here in football. Like maybe even like in rugby, I may not have taken, I had notepads, but I might have taken too much notes in meetings. But here I'm all the time writing stuff
Yeah.
down, learning all the plays, learning different things that I need to know, and I'm much more on top of the kind of off the field stuff here, I would say, than especially when I was in Connacht. I would say even just things like rehab and stuff. When I was a young fella, you go out in the field and kick 100 kicks, and nothing would happen to you. You just feel fine the next day. But when you're a little bit older, you need to be more aware of, like, you can't just swing your leg 100 times and expect your hamstring or hip flexor to be fine. So things like that, I'm definitely definitely taking on board. And at the same time, it is a very similar environment. Our head coach here has a Super Bowl ring with the New York Giants, and so when I hear him speak, it's the exact same as hearing Pat Lam speak, and so things like that, I feel very at home, and yeah, it's just a great environment to be a part of.
Obviously, having the rugby background is advantageous because, as opposed to some kickers who are not used to putting in tackles, you have that experience. And we saw the recent video of you putting in a hit against the Stuttgart Surge, so that was pretty
Yeah.
impressive to see. But like, do you think that gives you it gives you an advantage, or an additional advantage over anyone else or other kickers when it comes to being attractive to teams is having that tackling experience.
Yeah, definitely. Like when I meet other kickers in the league before games and after games, I noticed that most of them are quite small guys. Most of them don't look like they even want to or have ever made a tackle or even would want to make a tackle. Like you see them running down the field. So I'm definitely unique in that aspect that I'm probably one of the only kickers in the world, NFL or not, that's actually been trained in tackling and made tackles and had a career making tackles. So that's definitely, I would say, a unique selling point for me. And I feel like as more NFL, this new kickoff rule is
Mm-hmm.
being done in the NFL, that teams are beginning to realize, hey, it's a bit risky to maybe have your 7 million a year kicker on the field on a kickoff, and you might have to make a tackle. So hopefully, opportunities may arise for people like me that can like be kickoff specialists that we can put the ball where we want to on the kickoffs, but also we're not just going to be like a turnstile for the guy running back. We can actually put in a hit. And thankfully at the weekend it was my first chance to actually get a hit on someone really. So luckily I was able to put in a big hit. But in previous games I've been there, but guys seem to always run into touch before they get to me. I don't know if it's because I'm a bigger lad or not, but uh, 3 times it's happened where I've been like thinking, oh, this is my chance to put a shoulder on, and then the guy just like runs out of bounds, and then yeah. But yeah, thankfully this weekend I got to make the most of it and got to get the shoulder on.
Well, like it's clear to see that you've already made a massive impact and impression in your brief tenure in the European League of Football so far, which is great to see. And like we're all loving
Yeah.
watching it here back home. But I suppose what is the future now? What's the vision for the future in terms of your professional American football career? I mean, are you looking at trying to make it more of a dive into the ELF, or is it kind of looking towards the NFL?
Yeah, obviously the goal is always to be try and make the NFL. Um, but at the start, as I said, one of the big issues when we went to the NFL Combine, we're chatting to coaches, and they're just like, "Have you ever played football before?" And you're like, "No," and that so a lot of them immediately that just puts them off. It's like this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But at least now, because I've came over to the ELF and I've played games, like when I say, "Hey, I can kick a 50-yard punt," I'm not just showing them a video of me in training with no pressure. I'm showing them a video of me
Yeah.
in the game. And in some ways, because I'm not getting this all the time, getting perfect snaps, and I'm getting kind of bad snaps. I'm still getting off really good kicks and almost faster times than they would in the NFL. That's like a really good thing. So, hopefully in the best, in the best case scenario, people will see me do my kickoffs and punts, and maybe a team might take me as a kickoff specialist. And that's the goal. And I think it's not completely out of the realm of possibility at the moment. And especially as the season goes on, if maybe some kickers get injured, then teams will really start thinking about it. Like even at the moment in different podcasts and stuff, you hear them talking about not wanting to risk their main guy. And obviously even at the Chiefs, Lewis Rees-Zammit is doing the kickoffs there. He did one, I think, and they're talking about their linebacker doing the kickoffs. So maybe as more teams do that, and someone like me that can kick and tackle, pretty well on both, that becomes an enticing offer to some teams. So NFL is definitely still the goal. If not that, there's like a UFL draft
Hmm.
happening next month. I said I had interest in the Canadian Football League at the start of the season. Just the way the timing just wasn't going to be work out for that, but I could definitely do that as well. So it's not. I'm definitely thinking, I'll be doing this for a lot more longer. As I said, I was out of professional sport for a couple of years, and now that I'm back doing it, I love it, and it's something I want to keep doing.
Well, it's fantastic to see the success that yourself and Charlie and of course the other guys are having. But for any young athletes out there, and we've seen the level of interest in American football, especially in GAA and rugby, ramp up massively since you guys have had your success. So for anyone out there who's trying to follow your path or following your footsteps, and is watching you guys and thinking, oh yeah, I could do this. I want to do this. I mean, what kind of advice or insights would you give to them?
Yep. Well, definitely the main thing is go out to one of the leader kicking sessions. That's the
Mm.
best way to do it. Um, as a Tyke holds different sessions around the country every month. So if I was a young fella, I'd get out to one of those, have fun, learn. At the very little, if you go to one of those sessions, you're going to learn to kick a ball better in your own sport, whether it be rugby or GA or whatever. And in best case scenario, you go and do well. And if Tig thinks you have a good leg and stuff, he might be able to train you to where there's a point where if you're a college age person, you can go out and get a college scholarship, like a lot of guys have done this year. And um, yeah, that's just the main thing. And just or even just go to your sports store and buy a football and kick and it just that's they can start. That's Charlie's proven this time last year he hadn't even kicked the ball and now he's in the NFL. So and other guys have done the same thing in college football. And like a guy who signed for the Rutgers recently, and he only started coming to sessions a couple months ago, and now he's on a full scholarship for one of the best D1 schools in America, and living that life, and it's a great experience. So yeah, I would just say if you're a young fella, definitely just get out and do a leader kicking session and take it from there. But that's the best place to start.
I'll let you go now in a couple of minutes there. And again, I appreciate you taking the time. I'm sure you're dying to get back there to the fine weather.
Yeah.
But something that I definitely love to know is you mentioned at the start of the podcast how before Ty got in touch with you about the program, you were over in Kansas coaching rugby. I mean, when was the moment, or what kind of inspired you to drop that and undertake this kind of this dream or this opportunity to go into professional American football?
I suppose when I finished up rugby, I went to Clemson University, and that's obviously one of the biggest college football schools in America. I went over there to a master's, and when I got there, Tig was just starting his American football journey for himself, and I was kicking with him in Asheville, which he just randomly lived an hour away from Clemson for a few weeks, and I was kicking with him. I could kick a ball quite well back then in field goals and stuff, but I did think about trying out for Clemson, but then when I figured out that you can't, the 5-year eligibility rule from when you finish university, so I finished that a couple of years earlier, so I couldn't. So it did cross my mind back then, and even when I was playing rugby for a long time, I used to think these NFL guys get paid millions just to kick a ball, so they might know something we didn't. So I often watched YouTube videos of certain guys and stuff. So I did that a bit, and then so it's just when Tig was doing this, and I said that epiphany moment we had, where we're just like, Tig's like, Darragh, you're like the perfect guy, and then I went out and kicked, and then I was like, oh yeah, I can still do this, and I still have a big leg, and I'm a good kicker, so it just made sense. And I suppose once we had that, I think that was mid-November. Once we did that, and Tig said, then a few days later, he's like, okay, you're in. That's when I was just like, thankfully I did great. I was working for a great company in Kansas called J.R. Core Roofing Company, and straight away they were like, oh, like, take whatever time off you need to go train whenever in certain days, and they were fully supportive of me. So I was able to practice 2 or 3 times a week during the week there, and fully commit myself to it. And then in January I quit that job and went full time into the football before we went to Florida on February 8th. So between January 6th and 8th, I was just back home in Ireland with Ty, training, and Mark and Rory and Charlie training every day. But yeah, I said I've always liked football. I've always watched it, and I said it's like my best attribute in rugby was kicking, but without having to do all the other stuff. You just got to focus on the kicking, what I'm good at. So you would think, that would be my perfect sport. So yeah, it's great that I'm finally getting to do it. And I said, if nothing else comes from this, I'm very delighted I did all this. Like, as I said, it's been unreal over here in Innsbruck the last couple of months. Like, getting to travel all over Europe, getting to live in the Alps for a while. It's been amazing. So, as I said, if nothing else happens, it's been a very good decision, I feel like. And yeah, as I said, I've no regrets on what I've done, and hopefully, still a lot more to come from me as well.
Hopefully, indeed. And look, we look forward to seeing how you get on in future ELF games, and indeed into hopefully an NFL career in the not so distant future. Darragh, before I let you go, I have one final question that I'd like to ask all my guests. And because
Yeah.
you've only just started playing American football, I can't ask you what your favorite football memory is, unfortunately, not
Yeah.
yet. But I can ask you, what is your favorite sporting memory from from all the years you've been involved in professional and amateur sport? What would you pick as, I
Yeah.
suppose, the top kind of moment for you?
Um, my top moment probably wouldn't. It's not actually from a game. It's probably when I was driving my car around Galway, and I get this random phone call from a random phone number. It popped up my phone, and then I hear a New Zealander accent saying, "Hey mate, do you want to be in? You're in the Irish squad for the November internationals. So that's probably when Joe Schmidt rang me. Um, that was surreal. At the time when he rang me, I didn't actually think it was him. I half thought it was Jack Carthy prank phone calling me. So like when he did say you're in the squad, I didn't. I tried to not give away too much. I think I kind of just gave him very generic. Oh yeah, thanks. That's great. Not the most excited in the world to find out. But then as soon as he ended the phone call. Pat Lam rang me to let me know that that was in fact Joe Schmidt that rang me. So that was an unreal moment. And when I drove home to my parents' house, and I just told them Joe Schmidt just rang me and I'm in the Ireland squad. That was just like a crazy thing to happen. As at the time, I wasn't really expecting it. I was playing quite well for Connacht, and I was like starting most of the games, and I was doing well and scoring tries and doing big kicks. But at that moment in time, I wasn't thinking about Ireland. I was just thinking about, oh, I need to start for Connacht, and that was a fantastic moment. And then probably again in an actual game was probably my second cap. We played against Leinster at home, and Brian O'Driscoll was playing, and that was an unbelievable game. I remember standing on the field, and I was looking up we had a scrum, and I just hear O'Driscoll shouting saying he has 15 and he had me, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm playing as Brian O'Driscoll here. That was kind of crazy. So yeah, that was probably one of my top moments. Those two.
Fantastic. I love it. And it's always great hearing about, favorite memories like that. Well, Darragh,
Yeah,
look, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. And look, we've seen how well you've been performing for the Raiders. Keep it up. We have our fingers crossed for you that you continue to go well. And look, it's looking quite likely, or hopefully we will see you in the making the trip stateside, be it to the UFL or the CFL, or even indeed the National Football League in the near future. And thanks for coming on again.
no, thanks for having me. It's good fun.